What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next I've got about $5,000 in books I'm currently speculating on. Also going to go over a couple other books related to these that I'm currently picking up that I think are great options to buy right now. Stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So like I said, I've got about $5,000 in books right here. It's actually just 3 books, so they are not very cheap. However, you can buy them in a variety of different grades, so just because these ones are expensive doesn't mean that there aren't other options in lower grades that you could also pick up. But I think these are all great spec books to buy right now. Now, like I mentioned, I'm also going to go over a couple related books, some related books for these that I also think are great books to pick up at this moment. So let's start with this one here. I thought this one was pretty funny when it showed up because it is just a single book and it is in a really big box. So they packed it well. At least it seems like they packed it well. We'll see if there's a lot of packing material and everything in here, but there's at least a lot of space for this book to take some hits. But yeah, there's a bunch of bubble wrap in here, so everything looks good. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Nothing was going to happen to this book. So this was a book that I recently picked up on eBay, and I just thought was just a steal for this book. And this is why I've mentioned this before. When you're buying books, this is why I often really like auctions. I like auctions because you never really know where it's going to sell, especially auctions that end at weird times. So auctions, if you want the kind of like to maximize your sales price, people tend to have them end at the kind of the afternoon on a Sunday. So you want it kind of later in the day on a Sunday around 9 p.m. Because then you're covering both coasts. You've got everybody that's up. People are on their vacation at the end of the week, and a lot of them maybe have gotten paychecks on Friday, so they have money. But books that sell at kind of more random times, you can often find some pretty good deals. And this is an example of one of those. And man, this book just looks incredible. So this is Strange Tales, number 178. And this is the first appearance of the Magus. So see up there, first appearance of the Magus. It's a 9/6 white pages copy. And the Magus is basically like the, let's see if I can get this over here, is like the evil version of Adam Warlock. And so he's kind of like an alternate reality, different universe version of Adam Warlock. And with what we've seen in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, with having him or Adam Warlock being a character that is almost certainly going to show up in the future of the MCU, having this be kind of like a really long-term spec where he could eventually be a big villain, because Magus is a big villain in the Marvel Universe. If you eventually have this character show up as a big villain, this could be just a huge book. And so I think this book right here is just a great one to pick up. It's just a cool cover. It's a Jim Starlin cover, and you've got him right on the front. It can be pretty tough to get in high grade too because of all the black, and I mean, this book just looks incredible. I might even have to take a close look at it to see if it's something that we could like try to submit and maybe get, like a 9.8, because the 9.8 of this book is worth a ton. I mean, the 9.6 is already expensive, but the 9.8 is worth way more. And this one, I've had a 9.6 of this book before that I have actually sold, and this one looks so sharp, sharper than I would say than my other one. I mean, just the edges and everything are incredible on this book. But like I said, I wanted to talk about related books that I'm also picking up for this character. And so this is I think one of the best books to pick up for Adam Warlock, and this is Thor 165. And this is the first full appearance of him, who eventually does become Adam Warlock. He's just called him here, as you can see down on the bottom. And his his first cameo appearance is in Fantastic Four number 67. I keep looking for a copy of that. I should have bought one. I saw a nice high grade one recently and I didn't buy it. I should have bought one, but I haven't. And but this is the first full appearance. So this is a big book to get for him, because I think that if you're going Silver Age, this is the book you want. The one that's really undervalued that I've talked about in some other videos is Fantastic Four 67. But this book has actually dropped in price recently, which I think is a big mistake for these books to come down, because I am sure we are going to see this character once James Gunn makes this next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I am sure this character is eventually gonna show up, and so I think this is a real good book to pick up. Now the other one is for the Bronze Age, and this is Marvel Premiere #1. And so this is the first appearance of Warlock. So this is the first time that he's actually called Warlock. And I think this is, again, another great book to pick up. It's a little more affordable than the Thor 165 because it's a Bronze Age book. It's from 1972. It's a little bit later on. So this is one that you can get a little more affordably, especially in the lower grades. It had gotten really, really expensive earlier this year, but it's also retreated, which I think means it's the time to pick up that book. I've been watching these books and I've been looking to potentially pick up additional copies, trying to get some that are up in the 9s, because those had gotten really expensive and they have definitely come down some. So I think, you know, this book, Marvel Premiere #1, you know, Thor 165, and then we've got Strange Tales #178 are all really, really good books to pick up right now. All right, so now let's go into the second box here, and this one has 2 books in it. One of them I've picked up on the recommendation of my friend Jake, who goes by Omega Red. It's spelled Omega Reed, Omega_Reed on Instagram. He also has the Spec Tales podcast. If you haven't checked that out, I talked about that one in one of my prior videos. It's a really fun podcast. It's him and his friend Jesus, and they regularly have guests on there as well. So I would definitely recommend going and checking that out, because it's a lot of fun to listen to, and they have some, I think they have some great recommendations, like one of the books that I'm going to talk about in here. So it's like I've got there was a box and then another box that was bubble wrapped, which probably wasn't really necessary, but hey, you know, can't complain about books being packaged safely. So we've got another box with some more bubble wrap. All right, so the first book, this is the one that's been recommended by Jake on both his Instagram as well as on his podcast, and this is Journey into Mystery, Annual #1. And this is the first appearance of Hercules. It is also the first appearance of Zeus, and it is a tough book to get in high grade. It is a tough book to get in anything outside of the like 2s and 3s. It's one of these earlier square-bound books. You can see it's a thicker book, and these early square-bound books, these annuals, just because they were glued instead of stapled, they were stapled on the interior, but then the cover is glued on. They take a lot of damage. They tend to have a lot of tears that are along the spine, and so getting them in high grade is very difficult. But this one, you know, this one looks nice. It's a 7.5, and there have been some big sales for 7.5s recently, so I thought it was a good book to pick up. And now the reason that this one is so good to pick up is, one, we know that Zeus is going to be in the next Thor Love and Thunder movie. I think a lot of speculation is that he's going to be killed by Gore the God Butcher, but when you get Zeus and when you've got Gore the God Butcher, the expectation is that you're going to have a bunch of other gods showing up, and one of the ones that there's a lot of speculation around is Hercules. And so this is first appearance of Hercules. It's also just a #1, you know, being an annual #1. So I think both of those things, so you've got a multi-key, you've got a #1. I think this is a great book to pick up. And so that's the first one there. Now, I don't have any other alternate books for this one with my recommendations, but I would definitely recommend going out and finding this one. You can always find lower grade copies on eBay pretty easily. There are quite a few of them. Getting the higher grade or mid-grade copies is where it starts to get pretty tough. But having any copy, I think, in preparation for that movie is a good decision. Now, the second book here, I have a number of other books that I recommend for this one. And this, I've been talking about this in quite a few different videos. I think it's crazy that I've seen prices drop in this, because I think prices are just going to go nuts when this comes back. But this is Star Wars #42, which is the first appearance of Boba Fett in comics. He made his actual first appearance in that Marvel Super Special #16, I believe it is, which is actually kind of like a magazine size book. But I think, like, people kind of joke around, comics tend to be more popular just than the magazines, just because they all fit together better. You know, instead of getting the big magazine size slab that doesn't fit in normal boxes, doesn't fit on shelves as well, all of that. So this is definitely the preferred book for this character. And so you've got first appearance of Boba Fett in comics, and with this one I have another copy of the first appearance of Boba Fett. This one you can see down here is this is the newsstand version. And so if you're not familiar with the difference between newsstand and direct, let's see here. So you can see the direct here has Spider-Man's face down in the corner here, and the newsstand has the barcode. And generally, even though this is from 1980, even though this is earlier on, when there were a lot more newsstands than directs, the newsstands tend to be much more difficult to get in high grade. So even though there are more of them, when you get to high grade, there are less of them. And so I have a newsstand and a direct, so for whichever side of that argument you're on, I've got one for each of them. Now, for Boba Fett, there are some other great books in the Star Wars run that I would also recommend going after. Now, this one is actually my favorite cover of them, and this is Star Wars #68. Now, this is not Boba Fett on the cover. This is just a different Mandalorian, but he is on the interior. So he is in the interior of this book. It's also just this awesome yellow cover. I really like the cover of this book. And I never had a high grade copy of this one before, so it's cool getting a 9.6. I had one that was about a 9, but this one is definitely much nicer. So this is another book that has really gone up with the popularity of Boba Fett and with his own show coming, and that's coming in December. I mean that show is coming up quickly. It's that Book of Boba Fett that's going to be on Disney Plus. So you've got some time, but not a lot of time before people, I think, really start picking up these books again. And the last one, and I think this is one of the ones that's a little more underrated, one that isn't as familiar to people, and this is Star Wars #81. And so you can see this is actually Boba Fett on the cover here. So that is him. And this is when he returns to the storyline. This is the issue where he gets out of the Sarlacc pit and returns to the Star Wars storyline. So this is a key issue for this character, and it's one that I think just gets overlooked a little bit. It hasn't carried the level of value that these other books have carried. You know, like this one in a 9.8 has been going for anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500. You know, some of them have been getting up around $4,000, especially when you're talking about the newsstand, $4,000 to even $5,000. Whereas this book has been more in the $500 to $1,000 range, and then Star Wars #68 in a 9.8 was going for more like I think it was about $1,500 to $2,000 for a 9.8. And so this is definitely the big book. You know, this one here is the big book. That one sells for the most. This one is kind of the #2, and Star Wars '81 is the #3 within the Star Wars run. But I think that Star Wars '81 for Boba Fett is actually more important than Star Wars '68. And so I think it deserves to be worth more. It deserves to carry more value. And especially if that Book of Boba Fett ends up talking about how he gets out of the Sarlacc pit, if they actually go into that, I think you could really see some moves in that book. So those are the three books I picked up: the Star Wars 42, the Journey into Mystery Annual #1, and Strange Tales #178. I think that they are all good books to go after right now. I think they all have really solid potential in the MCU. The Strange Tales 178 is definitely a longer play. The Boba Fett books, like I said, that character is coming. I mean, we've got a Disney Plus show that's coming based around that character, and we know Star Wars is extremely popular, so I think if you want these books, now is the time to get them. Journey into Mystery Annual #1, you've got a little time, but they're starting to leak things like set photos and character designs, that kind of thing for that movie, so you don't have that much time. So if you're looking to pick up a Journey into Mystery Annual #1, I would say should definitely go for it now. Do it sooner than later. I think it's a better book to pick up than, say, that first appearance of Gore the God Butcher, because that one, you're talking about the villain that is likely going to die in that movie, whereas a character like Hercules could definitely have a long-term kind of presence in the Marvel Universe, in the MCU. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of the other videos that I have on this channel, and the subscription button right here if you'd like to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.